Everyone tells you to trust your instincts. The problem with dating apps is that they're specifically designed to override them. A curated profile, carefully chosen photographs, conversations filtered through a screen that strips away every physical signal your body has evolved to detect. The way someone stands too close, the way their eyes track the exits, the way something in their voice doesn't match their words. You are making one of the most consequential decisions of your life, meeting a stranger alone, with less information than you'd use to choose a restaurant. These are 3 stories from people who met someone online. All of them made it home. Not all of them made it home the same. I matched with someone on Hinge in late October. We'll call him Daniel. Daniel was polite, responsive but not overbearing. He asked questions about my life and seemed to actually listen to the answers. After about a week of messaging, he suggested dinner at a restaurant I'd mentioned wanting to try. He'd remembered. That felt thoughtful at the time. We set the date for a Friday evening. I spent longer than I'd like to admit getting ready. I told my roommate where I was going, sent her the restaurant name, and promised a text when I arrived. About an hour before I was supposed to leave, my phone buzzed. A text from a number I didn't recognize. It said, "Don't go tonight. He's not who he says he is. I'm sorry." I stared at it for a long time. My first instinct was to dismiss it. Someone being dramatic, maybe an ex of his, maybe a wrong number. People receive strange texts all the time. But something about the phrasing stopped me. Not "he's a bad guy," or "he's cheating," or any of the things a jealous ex might say. He's not who he says he is. That felt specific. That felt like a warning from someone who knew something concrete. I screenshotted the text, sent it to my roommate. She told me I was overthinking it. I texted Daniel and told him I was running late, 15 minutes or so. I wanted to see how he'd react. He responded immediately. "No worries, I'm already here," grabbed a table. Normal response. Nothing alarming. So I googled the phone number that sent the warning. Nothing. Tried a reverse lookup. Nothing. Whoever sent it had used a number that didn't connect to any public profile. I almost went anyway. I had my keys in my hand. My coat was on. And then I did something I still can't fully explain. I opened Instagram and searched Daniel's name, and started scrolling through his followers. I'd done a cursory check when we first matched, but this time I went deeper, into the accounts that followed him, into their followers. 3 accounts deep. I found her. A woman whose bio said she was a social worker in my city. Her most recent post from 4 days earlier was a screenshot of a dating app conversation. The profile picture in the screenshot was Daniel's. The messages were nearly identical to the ones he'd sent me, word for word. The same restaurant suggestion, the same detail about remembering what she'd mentioned. The same playbook. Her caption said she'd gone on the date. She described arriving at the restaurant and finding that Daniel looked nothing like his photographs. Not slightly different, a completely different person. She left immediately, and he followed her to the parking lot. She didn't describe what happened in the parking lot. She just said she got home safely and filed a police report. I took off my coat. I sat down. And I blocked Daniel on every platform I can think of. I never found out who sent that text. I've thought about it more times than I can count. Whoever it was knew Daniel's pattern, knew when the dates were happening, knew the targets. I don't know if that person was watching Daniel or watching me. I'd been talking to a woman on Bumble for about 3 weeks. We'll call her Grace. Grace was funny, which is rare on these apps. Not performatively funny, genuinely quick. She'd respond to things I said with observations that made me laugh out loud at my phone, which my co-workers noticed and found suspicious. When she suggested meeting at her apartment for dinner instead of going out, she said she was a good cook and restaurants made her anxious. I hesitated. Meeting at someone's home for a first date isn't standard. My friends told me it was a red flag, but Grace had been so consistently warm, so human, and her explanation made sense. Some people genuinely don't enjoy restaurants. I told myself I was being paranoid. She texted me the address on the evening of the date. I typed it into my GPS and started driving. The neighborhood was fine at first. Residential. Quiet. The kind of place where families live and nothing interesting ever happens. But as I got closer to the specific address, the houses started spacing further apart. More trees, fewer streetlights. My GPS told me I'd arrived. I was parked in front of an empty lot. No house, no apartment building. Just an overgrown patch of land between two properties that were clearly occupied. I checked the address twice. I'd entered it correctly. This was the location. I texted Grace. Hey, I think I have the wrong address. GPS says I'm here, but there's no building. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Her response: sorry, I gave you the wrong number. It's new address, just 2 streets over. I almost drove to it. I was already in the car. It was only 2 streets away. But I sat there for a moment, and in that moment, I looked in my rearview mirror. There was a car parked about 40 meters behind me. Headlights off, engine running. I could see the exhaust in the cold air. It hadn't been there when I arrived, I was certain of that. I put my car in drive and pulled forward slowly. The car behind me did not move. I turned left at the end of the street, and when I glanced in the mirror, the car's headlights came on. I drove straight home. I did not go to the second address. I did not text Grace. I blocked the number the moment I was inside my apartment with the door locked. The next day, I searched the second address she'd given me. It was a real address. It was a real house. It was listed as vacant. Had been for 8 months. She'd sent me to 2 locations. Neither of them was a home where someone lived. Both of them were isolated, dark, and set back from occupied houses. I filed a report. The officer I spoke to told me, and I will never forget this: you're the 3rd person this month who's described this exact scenario in this part of the city. I deleted every dating app on my phone that night. I haven't reinstalled them. I went on a date with a man I'll call Marcus. Coffee, public place, middle of the afternoon, everything by the book. Marcus was charming, genuinely charming, not performatively. He made eye contact without staring. He asked about my work with what seemed like real interest. He laughed at things that were actually funny, not just at things I said. The date lasted 2 hours, which felt like 45 minutes. When we said goodbye outside the coffee shop, he asked if he could walk me home. I lived about 15 minutes away on foot. It was 4 in the afternoon, broad daylight. I said yes. We walked, we talked. He told me about growing up in Vermont. I told him about my sister's wedding planning disasters. It was easy, comfortable, the kind of conversation where you stop noticing the walking. He left me at my door, didn't ask to come in, didn't linger. He'd said he'd had a great time and he'd text me. And then he walked away. I went inside feeling something I hadn't felt after a date in a very long time. Hopeful. He texted that evening, and we made plans for the following weekend. The second date was dinner, a restaurant he chose. It was nice, not trying too hard, but thoughtful. He pulled my chair out. He remembered that I didn't drink red wine. He insisted on paying, but wasn't weird about it. He walked me home again, this time at my door. He kissed me. It was brief and gentle, and exactly right. I watched him walk down my street from my window. He turned the corner and was gone. The third date was at his apartment. He cooked. He was a good cook. We watched a film. I stayed late but went home. He ordered me an Uber and waited outside with me until it arrived. Everything about Marcus was correct. The fourth date is when it changed. We were at a bar, a place I'd suggested. About an hour in, I went to the bathroom. And when I came back, Marcus was talking to the bartender. Nothing unusual. He handed me my drink, the one I'd left on the bar, and we kept talking. About 20 minutes later, the room tilted. Not slowly, not gradually. One moment I was fine, and the next the edges of my vision were dissolving, and my thoughts were moving through something thick and heavy, like I was thinking through syrup. I knew immediately. I knew. I'd been taught the signs. I'd read the articles. I'd told other women to trust themselves in this exact moment. And here I was, sitting across from a man who I'd spent 3 dates building my trust specifically so that on the fourth one, I wouldn't question the drink he handed me. I stood up. I said I needed air. He reached for my arm and I pulled away. The bartender saw. I don't know what she saw on my face, but she came around the bar immediately. She said, "Hey, your friend is here to pick you up. She's out front." There was no friend. The bartender had made a decision based on what she was watching. She walked me out a side entrance. She called me a cab. She took my phone and called my roommate. And she stayed with me until the cab arrived. I remember very little of the ride home. I remember my roommate's face when I walked in. I remember sitting on the bathroom floor. I remember Marcus texting me at 1 a.m. "Hey, you disappeared. Everything okay?" As if he didn't know. As if the past 3 weeks of careful, patient, deliberate trust building hadn't been leading to that exact moment. As if every thoughtful gesture, every remembered detail, every perfectly timed kiss hadn't been part of a strategy designed to make me drop my guard completely. I filed a police report the next morning. The bar had cameras. The bartender gave a statement. Marcus's real name wasn't Marcus. His profile was deleted by the time I checked. The phone number he'd been texting from was disconnected within hours. I don't know where he is. I don't know who he did this to before me. I don't know who he's doing it to now. What I know is this: 3 perfect dates. 3 weeks of patience. Every instinct I had told me this person was safe, and my instincts were wrong. Not because they failed, but because they were systematically, deliberately, and expertly deceived. I check my drinks now. Every drink, every time. Even at home, even with friends. Even when I know logically that I'm safe. Because I was safe with Marcus too. Until I wasn't. If you use dating apps, and statistically many of you do, never meet at a private location for a first date. Always tell someone where you're going. Always have your own transportation. And never leave a drink unattended, even if you trust the person sitting across from you. Especially if you trust the person sitting across from you. If you have a story you'd like to share, the link is in the description. Subscribe if you're new. New stories every week.